The landscape that surrounds us is our home. Are we helping or harming it? Is it getting better or worse? That's our show next. Stay with us. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business. Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. As I was reviewing our log of past shows, I noticed it has been a while since we had a focus on environmental issues. Who should I call? It was easy. Immediately I thought of two environmental champions and doers who know what's going on and how to get things done. Here are Natalie Johnson, the Executive Director for Save the Dunes, and Chris Kraus, the Executive Director for the Shirley Hines Land Trust. I finally got you guys on the show.
It took a while, but here we are.
I know. What, about 6 months of planning? You guys must be really busy.
Possibly.
There's a lot of good things going on out there.
As they say, busy saving the world? Literally?
Yes.
Or Northwest Indiana, at least.
So, let's just kind of start. There's a lot going on in the world today, and it seems like some things are changing. I mean, just generally, how do you guys kind of feel about the whole environmental movement, and just where are we right now? Are we answering those questions? Are we moving forward? Are we doing great things? What's going on?
Well, it's always something that I think is moving forward. We see the next generation embracing this passion to do good and to do good things for our environment. That re-energizes me, makes me feel very positive about what's going on. And yes, there are challenges, but there's good things too, I guess, is what I want to make a point about.
So for environmental people, this really fits, right? It's like, so to you, the grass is always green, the sky is always blue.
As long as we work together and keep at it, then yes, it's possible.
So a very positive outlook. So that's great. I mean, how do you see it, Chris? I mean, what's generally going on right now?
I think a lot of good things are happening, particularly in Northwest Indiana. To piggyback a little bit on what Natalie's saying, I think collaboration and partnerships, we've come so far just here specifically in our region with being able to accomplish more, and maybe this is getting a little into what we do as an organization at Shirley Hines Land Trust, protecting natural areas, restoring them, doing more environmental education. There's just so much going on as it relates to the environment that are positive. And then you couple a lot of initiatives and good things that are occurring with, better technology. I think there's just a lot going on as it relates to the environment. There's more public awareness, and people in general are doing a lot of good things to improve our environment.
Is it a safe description to say that you two work more with the landscape? Is that a good way to say it? You kind of work with the landscape of our area, but it's also air, water, all those things? How would you describe it?
Landscape level conservation. And so Save the Dunes is focused on preserving, protecting, restoring the Indiana dunes and everything that's flowing to Lake Michigan within Northwest Indiana. And so when we say the dunes, it's not just the actual physical sand dunes themselves, it's everything in between. From east to west, Michigan City to Whiting, all the way down to Valparaiso and Maryville. And it takes a great deal of partnering together to think about that larger landscape level view, rather than just, I'm going to try to make this area the best that it can be as far as quality goes, quality species. It takes coming together collaboratively to think about the bigger picture.
When you talk about Save the Dunes, I think we need to remind people, because I think they forget this, that the dunes wrapped all the way around the lake, every inch of it. We've just built stuff on it, removed the sand, done things, and those dunes come way back in quite deeply into this area, even though, again, we built on them and got rid of them. I'm assuming you look at all that.
Look at all that, and then again, everything, the bogs, the prairies, the forests, the wetlands, all of it. It's all part of that dune system.
Because everything moves towards the dunes, right? I mean, technically.
It's all connected.
So how do you see the area, Chris? What's your kind of like focus?
Yeah, focus is actually a good word. One of the things that, as we've collaborated with many of our partners, thinking more regionally instead of just having a specific nature preserve, you have the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore in that dunes area, but you also have places like Hobart Marsh where there's just a high concentration of high quality natural areas in quite a variety. You have in Hobart, Burr Oak, savanna, prairies, wetlands, marshes, all in a pretty concentrated area. And so we're thinking more kind of on a landscape scale, or as we're referring to them as focus areas or conservation areas. How do we adequately protect the land that needs to be protected in that particular area, restore it? What does public access look like? What are some of the green infrastructure issues? So when stormwater runoff is a big factor when you're thinking about municipalities, which, as you know, we have a lot of those here. How do you work with the municipalities on good stormwater management, which affects water quality, and it also has an impact on these high quality natural areas? There's the moraine, so going from Valparaiso all the way up into Michigan through Michigan City and LaPorte, or in between those two municipalities, that being kind of one big landscape. The project area where there's been just a ton of collaboration is the east branch of the Little Calumet River. So going from the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore in the town of Porter all the way out to Red Mill County Park in LaPorte, you have an 11-mile river corridor, and we've been collaborating with Save the Dunes, the Nature Conservancy, DNR, the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, corporations like ArcelorMittal and NIPSCO, foundations like the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation and Chicago Community Trust, all working.
I can remember, he remembers all these.
This
Yeah.
is good. Well, then
Yeah.
I don't have to. No, I'm kidding.
all working to protect land. We've acquired over 400 acres in the last 4 years along the river corridor, creating canoe and kayak launches so that people can publicly access the river. People like Dan Plath with the Northwest Indiana Paddling Association, opening up a river corridor that hasn't been used for 30 years so that people can kayak and canoe. And now we're getting into the watershed management plan that Save the Dunes did back in 2014,
15.
Yeah, and so implementing that. So
Well, you kind of went the way I wanted to go, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Good.
You talked about one of the accomplishments, and that's one. I think maybe to give the viewer some perspective, we've now got this 11-mile corridor of navigable water, and we've got more land protected around the water's cleaner, so you've kind of described this success story. What was that like 30 years ago? Where did we come from to get to that point? Can you give it, either one of you give a description of what that looked like?
Well, on the east branch of the Little Calumet River, it was interesting because we had, one, a tornado came through, put a ton of log jams in the Chesterton area, and over time you had things like the emerald ash borer, which is an invasive beetle, chewing away at the ash trees. Those dead ash trees are falling into the water, which just jammed up this river completely.
What was the water quality like? I
The
hate to
water
even ask water
quality-
quality because I know
water-
that really gets you going.
I love talking water quality. Water quality in Northwest Indiana has been improving over time.
But what was it like 30 years on that ago?
30
on that
years,
river?
and that's hard to say whether or not how many combined sewer overflows may have been taking place. But certainly the movement around water quality has been improving and gaining a lot of traction. So my suspicion would be that it's improving greatly, and that 30 years ago, it may not have been as high a quality.
Well, maybe I'm asking her a question 30 years ago. Maybe she wasn't even born then. I'm not sure. So
I would have, yeah.
about that time. So, but since you both are younger, but as I've heard people describe it, back 30, 40 years ago, people go, that's a polluted river. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody would
I think
stick their
gosh.
toe in that river. I mean, nobody would go down there. Nobody would put a boat in.
The Grand
Yeah.
Calumet River is an excellent example of that, and things that organizations like ours, we work to change that concept. Yes, we have legacy contamination in some of our waterways that are being addressed by a great number of partnerships. It takes everybody on board. But then, yes, there's this whole, you have to change the perception that these waterways are coming back. We're seeing species here that haven't been seen in many, many years.
Chris, you were trying to say?
Oh, no, I was actually going to use the Grand Calumet River in northern Lake County as a great example. Before EPA, I mean, essentially, contaminants and toxins, I mean, they kind of went unchecked, and a lot of things without combined sewer overflows, even sewage going into a waterway such as that, where you can't eat the fish, you can't swim, you don't want to dip your toe in the water. And now, because of collaboration with industry, state and federal agencies, we've, hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested to essentially remediate that waterway that essentially, I mean, now you have bald eagles, you have fish that I wouldn't necessarily recommend eating. There's still some stretches of the river that need to be cleaned up, but it's a place where has essentially been regentrified, and it has quality of life implications for Hammond, East Chicago, Gary, all the communities that river traverses through, and more broadly for our region. So
I think
it's pretty exciting.
the perception's a pretty important issue. But generally it feels like there's a movement in this country to kind of push back on the environment a little bit. Let's drop some of the EPA regulations. Let's not be as concerned about some of these issues. I mean, do you feel that's kind of a general sentiment that's coming? But then when you hear that, you'll hear people say, but the environmental community is stepping up and going, no. And the general public is stepping up and saying, no, we don't want to go backwards. We like the progress we've made, and we want to continue this progress. Now, I know I'm probably asking the wrong two people because you're biased about this, but I mean, how do you see that shift of attitude in the general population or the political landscape? I'm
happy to address that. That's one thing I know we get the question of course, our organizations are working together. What is Save the Dunes doing distinctly? We're known as an advocacy organization. That's our grassroots area. It's what we were created for, and we are nonpartisan, but we continue to advocate for what we believe is going to be most critical in the environment. So yes, we're dealing with challenging times right now.
Well, do you see your constituent base or just the general public stepping up and going, wait a second, the environment's important?
Absolutely. And even though we're apolitical, you're seeing both sides of the parties stepping up and saying that this is important. It's important to a lot of us. Nobody wants to see what life was like prior to the EPA. We don't want to see those threats. So budget cuts to agencies like the US EPA, to Department of Interior, to NOAA, those are things that we're going to advocate very strongly for. Here is the funding that should remain in the budget. We want to see those organizations supported because they do a lot of great things in Northwest Indiana, such as the Grand Calumet River restoration, a lot of the projects that Chris and I both had the pleasure of doing, and it enhances our quality of life.
So Chris, how do you kind of see that? Do you see, how's your view of the general public or that feeling that exists between kind of the environmental supporters or the people who are like, it's not that important?
Yeah, I think that in general, even though it's not everybody talks about environmental issues on a day-to-day basis, I think when you get to the roots of what our needs are as humans, we all want to be drinking clean water.
Exactly.
We all want clean air. We want to be able to go outside and enjoy the world around us, whether that's playing sports or going skiing, whatever your outdoor activities may be. And I think it's how we message the importance of the environment, and it really isn't, it shouldn't be a political issue because
Correct.
All of us want to be healthy. All of us, again, want to drink clean water. We want to have a healthy air to breathe. And so
I've heard I've particularly heard in our region, the industrial people who, when that question comes up, they'll say, seriously, I live here too. I don't want my
Exactly.
kids to be out in this, so we're not wanting to produce waste and damage the environment. We want it to be better. So I see that, you know, in this community. Why is this so important to both of you? Just you personally, why are you so into this environmental stuff?
Well, I was one of those kids that I remember that moment in 5th grade when I got involved in a water quality testing program. We went out in the streams, we dug up the bugs underneath the water, and I fell in love with just being outdoors. I came home muddy every night. It was great. I mean, I spent my time growing up outside, but I didn't have to worry about what was in the water, what was around me. And I couldn't imagine those kind of threats stopping me from enjoying that beautiful childhood that I have. And so I'm very passionate about keeping things protected, restored, making things better than they were, because I want the next generation to keep enjoying that their kids and that go out, enjoy these rivers.
So you were one of those kids that all the other kids looked at and went, gosh, she likes to stick her hands in the mud and she likes to hold frogs. And
Keith,
there's
they
something must be wrong with it.
still look at me that way.
Well, I think it's a good thing. What got you into this, Chris?
For me, it was kind of a roundabout way. I was always outside mowing lawns, playing sports, and then and had a strong interest in science. And in high school, I did a lot of water testing. Got involved in the state science fair, and eventually went to college for a chemistry major. But then realized that I like being outside, and that if I could tie my profession to the outdoors and some of the great experiences I had growing up, being in some of our national parks with friends, that would be a pretty awesome career. And so I went the environmental science track, and in a roundabout way, ended up at Shirley Hines Land Trust and have been there ever since.
And that's the story. Well,
Yeah.
for me, it was coming back from college, and when my brother threw a can out of the car, I stopped the car and made him get out and go back, walk down the highway and pick it up, and he really got on to me. So you think you're a big deal? I thought, yeah, I am. This is pretty powerful, making you get out of the car and pick up the can. So, you know, it's not as good a story as yours, but. So what do you want? What does the public need to know that they don't know about the environment? What do people need to know? They need to be more aware of.
Well, first off, how powerful their voice is. As Chris put it, we love this place where we live, and we enjoy it and experience it in different ways. If you like hiking, biking, experiencing hiking up the dunes, kayaking, skiing, golfing, whatever it might be to be outside, you are connected to the environment in some way. And what would life be like if you didn't have that outlet, or you could go enjoy and live that passion?
Do you think people around here know that, particularly in Northwest Indiana or south suburbs of Chicago, who can easily access this, that this is all here?
I think that's one thing, is sometimes we have to find it. We have a hidden treasure, which works sometimes in our favor, that we can keep it close to our chest, but we do need to let that shine and invite others in. We have something truly beautiful here. But that voice that I mentioned, I don't think people think about the power that they have to express, gosh, I want to keep these places protected. I want them restored. I want to see funding for these agencies that keep Lake Michigan sparkling, that we can go there every summer. And if we really thought about, again, life without that, what would it be like if we just couldn't go enjoy that, or we had to worry about threats to the water, the air, and so forth? That would be miserable. And so the power behind the voice.
Okay, that's important. That's important to know.
It's huge.
What do you want people to know that they aren't aware of, or just need to have a better grasp of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people should realize, particularly residents of Northwest Indiana, that we live in one of the most ecologically and natural areas in the country. I mean, we have just such a wide array of various habitats and high quality natural areas in such a small concentrated area. So going back to what you were saying about the dunes, we have southern tip of Lake Michigan, dunes, the moraine. I mean, it's absolutely spectacular, the different types of habitat and the biodiversity we have here. And I would argue that it's one of the things that makes us unique as a region, and we should all embrace that, appreciate it, and it's
And be proud of it.
And proud of it, and it's on us and our organizations to educate the public and make them more aware of what that resource is and get them out for experiences so that they can learn and better understand what we have here.
We just got a couple minutes left, so I just want to know, favorite place, if you could pick just one favorite place that you have, you can't have multiple, one favorite place, what's your favorite place in Northwest Indiana?
Miller Woods for me. I love Miller
Why?
Woods. Well, one, it's close to my community and just a beautiful place to walk. The Douglas Center there is absolutely amazing. In the wintertime, you can borrow snowshoes or cross-country skis. There is never a time that you don't see a beaver actively working.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Your favorite place?
I have a couple, but I would say
pick one.
that,
You have to
yeah, I'm
pick
just
one.
going to pick one. So our office is at Meadowbrook, which is a retired Girl Scout camp. And so every day I have the pleasure of going to work on top of the moraine, which is essentially what was left behind during the last glaciation period about 14,000 years ago. It's a high point between Valparaiso and Chesterton, and it's a beautiful wooded nature preserve where we've protected 224 acres, and it's a spectacular place for people and also a lot of the critters that you would expect to see in Northwest Indiana.
I love this technical term of critters. That's a good one. Well, I want to encourage our viewers, if they want to find out more of what you both do, Shirley Hind Land Trust, Save the Dunes, you guys produce lots of materials and you have a lot of information, great websites. So I'm going to encourage them to reach out to you and call you guys up and plug into this environmental push. And thanks for being on the show.
Thanks.
And everything you guys
you.
do. What's wrong with you people? Don't you get it? Let's start with trash. Why do we have to produce so much? Cardboard, boxes, bubble wrap, packing peanuts, styrofoam, display packaging, plastic shells, stickers, wrapping paper, bottles, cans. Should I go on? No. You get the idea. Well, you say, it's not my fault that the people who make it or the place where I buy it choose to use all that stuff. Wrong. You have choices. Buy bulk. Purchase loose items that you can place in a reusable bag. Buy local. Rather than order online where you are assured of additional packaging, if you must order online, consolidate orders. Buy from the same company. Even if one item costs a little bit more, one company, one box. Did I mention reusable bags? Use them every opportunity. Or better, I do not need a bag. I can carry this one item in my hand or purse or pocket. Let's slide over to recycling. It's pretty simple. Nearly everything is recyclable, and most everything has recycling emblems. It's a system made for a kindergartner. I know you say my town does not take everything. Find out what they do take and put it in the right containers. You cannot use the excuse, I don't know, so I don't do it. If I find one more bottle or can in the trash bin, I am going to scream. Just about every glass and metal container can be recycled. It's not that difficult. Let it be reprocessed or reuse it. Now, litter. Seriously, who said our roadsides, ditches, sidewalks, streets, parks, and highways are places for you to pitch your used 32-ounce supersized cup, your fast food bag, candy wrapper, plastic drink bottle, and cigarette butts? And when you decided that your sunken mattress, worn out lazy boy recliner, worn set of tires, or full bag of trash was to be pitched, dropped, or ejected from your vehicle, you left it for the rest of us to view. Wait until you find a trash can. Keep a small waste container in your car. Call the waste hauler for pickup, and if you must pay a fee, pay it. We have one world to protect and share. If you are doing your part to reduce, reuse, and recycle, thanks. If you see others who are not, Be nice and try to educate them. If that doesn't work, you have my permission to gripe, complain, and maybe even criticize. I'm not sure if I've ever done a closing like this one. If I have, I am sure you'll tell me. It was my turn to just gripe, complain, and maybe even criticize some folks on the subjects of trash, recycling, and litter. Hopefully it did not apply to you, but to others. If it did hit home, well, try to fix it. With that out of my system, thanks for watching our show. Send your thoughts and feedback to us through the email address listed on your screen. Check out our website. You can watch past episodes of Lakeshore Focus. On the website, there's a list of previously aired shows. You can also find us on YouTube by searching for Lakeshore Focus. After my little tirade, I will have to end in a slightly different way. Join us next week for another Lakeshore Focus. Until then, I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a difference in our world today. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business.